Hello, my name's Dave, and welcome to part 2 of our application tutorials for your point validation tool in CATIA V5. In part 2, we're going to be talking about how to import points into CATIA V5 using our validation software. Okay, first, let's get connected to CATIA as shown in part 1 of our application tutorials. And once we've obtained a solid connection here with CATIA, we can take a look at the import button. Now, as with any control within our application, we've got tooltips that can help you understand what you are about to click or what the function of the control is for. So let's push import. And now we are presented with another selection button right here. It's very similar to what you saw in part 1. And as you notice, you get over the selector, you get a little hand. So that's indicating that this is the thing to be clicked. So we can click this, or we can actually drag and drop a file onto this area. But dragging and dropping won't show you what file types are allowed. If you click here, you will see the file types that are allowed because you get this little drop down, and this is filtering and showing only the files that it can actually import. So we've got IGES, CSV, Excel, a couple others in there. And for our first example, we're going to look at just this validation.csv. And we'll open it, and it's going to automatically drop down a menu here for you to select the access system in which you want to import the points to. So on this part, we have an import access system within CATIA. It's right here. Now, you see that there's also an option to pick from CATIA. Now, if I click that, the application minimizes so that you can see full screen CATIA here, and you can go just literally pick an access system from the graphical space, or you can actually go over here into the spec tree and select an access system from over here too. So I clicked the import access system, and you see we've clicked it manually. See there, if you keep selecting that, it gives you an option again to just keep selecting. So anyway, I was just showing you I could click on this or this, and it's the same thing. It's the same difference because it's still pulling from that same access system. The next menu that gets dropped is the file units. This is important for you to know what your file was built in. This does not say what you want it to be in. This is what the file was built in. So if your file was saved in millimeters, you need to click millimeters here. These are the file units. Now, you can import something in millimeters, and then downstream, you can produce a report in inches. That is not what this here is for. This is just the file units. I hope that's clear. So in this specific instance, we are in inches, and that's all we need to give it. We can hover over this red chevron, and that tells us a little bit of information about the loaded data that we got from this file. So, if you're expecting to see 1,000 items and you only get 10, there might be an issue with the formatting of the file. There might be an issue with our filter that is trying to parse the file. And if that's the case, if we find an issue, we'll fix that promptly. But you can see here we have 384 items that were loaded. So we're going to go ahead and click Import Points to CATIA. And since we are in the correct space and using the correct units, we're seeing the points are going right where they should. I can push Cancel. I wanted to hurry up and do that before it finished. But I can push Cancel if I decided, hey, I'm in the wrong space. Now, cancel is very useful because you see, we can either just say, quit, I don't want to do this anymore, or we can say reset. Reset will get rid of all the points. We're just back to square one. We could start importing them again, but maybe say, oh, it's supposed to be in millimeters, or, you know, whatever. I was in the wrong axis system. You could change these things and then just import again. Or let's just load a different file. We'll load one that says large file. Here we go. We'll load this one, import axis system and the units in inches. And all right, we're making points. Now, when it gets to this face here, oh my goodness, it's putting some dense points in. You know, I don't want to wait for all these points. I'm not really concerned about this face. I'm good with the points that we have. So I can push cancel, and then I can say keep imported data and continue. So it's going to keep what's there. And then we can say either quit, because that's, you know, I just wanted the points imported, or we can move on to the next step of defining comparison geometry. To which I'll just show you real quick. I'll show you what it does. It will automatically read the points that were just imported, and it will place them into this selection button. Okay. But for the time being, I'm going to keep talking about imported points. So I'm going to go File, Reset All Fields, and I'm just going to go ahead and delete both of these geosets. All right. So when you push Reset All Fields, it disconnected from CATIA as well. This is almost like saying restart the app. Okay, so I'm going to click connect to CATIA again. We're going to go import. And this time we're going to import a different file type. This one we're going to use a Polyworks format type. And I want to show you what's inside of this. Let me edit this real quick so we can look. I'm going to go ahead and import that while I've got it open so we can just see. Axis system is also the import axis system, and inches. Okay, so the formatting of this file, as you can see, we've got name, XYZ, IJK, diameter, position deviation, surface deviation, and then pass, fail, comma delimited. And then we also have headers that separate different groups. So anything under circles right here, all of these belong to the group circles. And cylinders has nothing, points has nothing, but there's a comparison points that has quite a few points in it. But since we actually have deviation and pass-fail information that was computed by Polyworks in this instance, we can go ahead and visualize the points that passed and the points that failed. We can visualize those on the import. And then we can even choose to set our own tolerance and ignore the tolerance that was set in Polyworks, because we don't know what Polyworks, we don't have that information in this file that says, well, our tolerance was, 5 thou. We can just see what the deviation is. And since that deviation exists in there, then I can set my own tolerance. Hope that makes sense. So on this file, we're going to go ahead and import these points. We're going to let it finish up. Just takes a moment here. And since this file had extra information, we get the visualization pop-up window, which you can see it colored our points green and blue and red. And we have a couple options here that I want to go through and make sense of. First off, we've got units. If you want to use millimeters, which you don't see any values on the screen right now because it says pass-fail defined by file. But if we uncheck this, we are in inches here. Our tolerances are in inches. If you wanted to define your tolerances in millimeters, that's how you do it, right? You can see they've changed. So it's just for user preference. At the end of the process, the values are going to be converted, whether you're in inches or millimeters. They're going to get output the way that you want them. But each step along the way gives you an option to choose whether you want to see it in inches or you want to see it in millimeters. So that's what that means there. Okay, hide or exclude all intolerance points. So if I click this, it's going to basically uncheck this box, right? Which this is just saying show intolerance points. And the reason that, why have it here and also have it here? Well, if you go to the advanced tab, this now breaks up our visualization options into the different groups as they were imported. So we've got circles, and inside of circles, we've got consistent naming scheme here for hole. So we've got a geoset called hole, and then we've got comparison points, and we have a consistent naming here of OML. So we have OML, profile, offset, OML, profile. Each one of these sub geosets gets their own visualization settings over here if we're in the advanced tab. So that means for the whole geoset, we can go along and say, well, I want my tolerance to be, let's just say 0.1 and then negative 0.1. And it will process those items differently from all the rest. So if you click the hide exclude all intolerance points, you click that, it goes through all these geosets and unchecks it. It's just a quick check for you. If we say pass fail points are defined by the import file, then we don't have the option to change the tolerances. Okay, and I want you to pay attention. I'm just going to go to the standard tab so we don't have as many items on the screen. But I want you to pay attention. Down here in the visualization options, it says our plus tolerance is 0.005 inches, and we have 3 points that are out of tolerance right now. On the bottom side, we have 17 points out. Then you look over here at holes. This is not saying the holes geoset. That might be confusing for this example, but it's actually saying I found items that are holes, truly holes. Like maybe there could be a hole over here in the profile. There's not in this example, but I'm saying it could. It's not dependent on the naming scheme of the geosets. And over here we have 9 points that are in tolerance. We have 6 points out of tolerance. So I want you to pay attention. If we click this pass fail points are defined by import file, those values are going to change. See, so it's once you uncheck this, it's evaluating the deviation that was stored in the file. It's evaluating that to the new tolerances. And then we have evaluate holes as true position. So this option, I think most of the time this is going to be on for most companies, but you do have the option of turning that off, in which these get evaluated slightly different. Okay, so as you make changes, let's go ahead and we'll leave intolerance points off. We'll update the visualization. You'll see the green points go away. All of the ones that were not holes, that is. See, we've got holes that are green. We can do that also if you don't want to see. If you only want to see the points out of tolerance, this is how you would do it. Just depends on your desire there. And then clearly you can click different symbol types and you can change your tolerances around. Okay, so we'll click finish, and then you get back to this window where you can choose to quit or jump into defining comparison geometry, where we can now compare these to the solid in CATIA and see if we get different information, get a different value from what we got from Polyworks. It's, that's why this is a validation tool. Or we can go right to building a report, in which it'll take these points as they are and build out an Excel report. Okay. Go ahead and I'm going to reset all fields here. I'm going to delete this geoset again, and I'm just going to import one more file type. So let's see. Oh, let's do a Verisurf. The points for this file are not going to land on this part. It's a different file, but I want to show you the import settings here. So when you import an Excel file, the parser is going to look through the Excel file and say, hey, look, I found more than one tab. Tell me which one you're wanting to read from. Okay, so we have all these different ones here. You notice it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9. Okay, that's because 7 and 8 are hidden and they're protected. So in this sheet, unless you've got the password to open those up, you're not going to get to those anyway. But you could do that. You could open up the Excel file, you could unhide those, and you could unprotect the workbook or the individual sheets, and then we would be able to gain access to those hidden ones. And that's why I numbered these, is so that you could actually see that there is something missing here in case you're not seeing what you think should be there. In this situation, I'm going to import nominal vector. Say OK. And then we're back to this kind of thing where we're importing it to a certain access system. I'll hover over here. It only loaded 10 items in this case. Let's see where those went. Okay, okay, that's a good example. Those are huge. That should have been imported in millimeters. So I would in this case I would push reset, and I'd just do it again in millimeters. Okay, I think that concludes part 2 of our application tutorials. Don't forget to come back for part 3, where we're going to be looking at defining comparison geometry to do a comparative analysis. Okay, thank you.